Awakening as true nature. So partly why we've been teaching quite a bit about true nature is because in the whole field of awakening, people have awakenings where they realize that there is more. They realize that consciousness isn't dependent on thinking, that we can actually experience a kind of consciousness which is totally free of thought and free of identity, which is huge, to have this experience of being alive. And it's almost second nature in itself. As a child we don't walk around saying, toddle around saying, I am Peter and I am this and I am that. But that this adult return to a place of freedom from identity is what's generally these days called awakening. And it comes with a rush of consciousness, because consciousness has been locked inside certain limitations, like I am female, I am male, I am this age, I am this nationality, from this family. All of these are limitations. Limitations on life, on naturalness, on being. And as people have these, sometimes an awakening can come with a strong experience of adrenaline rush, whoosh, kundalini, which is an effect of awakening in a way. You touch something very real, very existential, and then the whole system, the nerve system goes, whoa! And sometimes people think that effect is the awakening, but it's not. It's that which we touched a moment before, which is so alive that it has this enlivening effect on the nerve system. So partly what we're doing here is learning to relax more deeply, to train the nerve system that it's safe to be free of limitation. It's safe to be free. It's safe to be nobody in particular. And it's also safe to be somebody. Because somebody is no longer a trap. It's no longer a trap to be somebody. It's not something that you'll get stuck inside. That these are all byproducts of awakening. So for some people, when there is an awakening, when it's a positive awakening, because there are also rude awakenings out of trauma, but when there's a positive awakening, sometimes one quality of true nature will come forward very strongly. And for some it's like Eckhart Tolle, for example. He had a very, very busy mind. It was all mind, conflict in the mind, like voices fighting in the mind. And the effect of his awakening was very much a sense of peace, peacefulness, which is pretty much what was locked inside that busy thinking. And so peacefulness and stillness. And obviously the now, the power of the now. For others, there can be an experience of unconditional freedom, and they become teachers of freedom. It's another quality of true nature. So we have peace, and then there is the freedom lot. And they'll teach it's all freedom, freedom, freedom. It's all about freedom, 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 because that was their experience of awakening. Suddenly they are free, and they get this sense of freedom, which is not the same as the sense of peace. It's a different quality of true nature. For some, it's a sense of the incredible quality of light. And you can see them on Facebook. All there is light. It's all light, light, light. Everything is light, light, light. And we are the light workers, and we will drive out the darkness, and it's all light, light, light. So they must have been in a pretty dark place before. Yeah. And for others,
a little light makes the difference.
For others, it's love, and love is maybe one of the most abused of the non-dual qualities. And you really get whole kind of scenes of the love junkies. It's all love. Everything is love. Love this, love that, love everywhere, and really hitting love with a hammer on other people. And that's not always the best thing, It's like, oh yeah, I was walking through Auschwitz and all I felt was love. There is sometimes in the awakening to a particular quality, there tends to be a clinging to that quality and trying to make that quality absolute and then trying to force it on other people in the form of teaching. But that doesn't mean the quality is not real. So today we're going to look a little bit into love, feel a little bit into love, the quality of love. Because it is so very, very important in the movement from head to heart, from thinking to feeling. We can't think love. Although you might think that you could think love according to the Institute of Marriage, and the demand that you love each other and that you have to love and you should love. But we can't really dictate love at all. We can't control it. We can't create it with thought or with the mind. We can maybe create a mental environment where love can show up. But love isn't a thought. It's a feeling, and it's a fundamental feeling. So in moving into the felt sense, to getting a feeling connection with any aspect of experience, we are moving with love in a way, but it's not the love that maybe we've been conditioned into believing in. So love is absolutely huge for us. Every area of psychology, every area of experience, all our relationships, all our losses, grief, all our fears, it's all spinning around this theme of love. And we're searching for love. At the same time that we're kind of hiding from it. So we have very often, when we begin to turn inside on this theme of love, we can uncover that we have quite a complicated relationship with love. Which is especially complicated because we haven't really been given the space to sense what it actually is. This love. Like, what is it? It's not taught in schools. We teach our children about the Holocaust. We don't teach them about love. Except for Tamsin, Tamsin is homeschooling, so she teaches her children about love. So it's a mystery. Love is really very, very much there. If we take off our preconceptions about love, it's very much there in this whole area of the unknown. Because if we look for love, we don't find it. We can't find it in a stable thing and say, this is love and I can keep it. I got me some love and I keep it in a box. It's ungraspable. And uncontrollable. We also can't get rid of it. We try really, really, really hard collectively to get rid of it. To deny it, to pretend that it's not a thing, that it's not a factor, that it's not a drive. In our education and in our conditioning, we very much try to negate love as if it's just a concept.
Why do people do that?
Because we're so mental, and the mind, the present state of mind is very much demanding that it stays in control, and it cannot control love.
And love hurts.
So this unknown mystery of being, this invisible force which moves us and attracts us and heals us and nourishes us through many different layers, it's really on the edge of the unknowable, of what can't be known by the mind. But what we can do is we can know her by her effects. We can see where love has been through our system. So if we begin to contemplate a little bit what love is, some of her effects can be noticed as a softening, sense of softening, a sense of opening. Sometimes it can be felt as a warmth if we were feeling very cold, but it can also be felt as a cooling if we were feeling too hot. It can be felt as a sense of home, a sense of the familiar, and a kind of mysterious familiar, like as if we knew something deep, 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 deep down. And we read as a recognition. But it can also be sensed in its effects through the effects of pain. It hurts. Love is painful, and this is partly what isn't at all popularly talked about love, because we have such a strong agenda to go for the pleasure and avoid the pain. The clear evidence that love hurts like hell is denied. We try to keep the pleasant aspects of love and avoid the painful aspects of love. But when the heart opens, sometimes it's because the heart is broken. And it really, really is painful. I mean, it's painful in the sense that the brain is registering like you're being physically attacked. That's how it hurts. And that doesn't feel much like love, and we struggle, we come into conflict with that pain which is love. This is a very Good Friday sermon, isn't it? It's turning into a crucifixion via Dolorosa thing. So we come into conflict with that pain, that agony, which is love, because love at a certain strength is pleasant, but if it gets stronger, we begin to break up. In a way, we begin to disintegrate a little bit, we begin to dissolve, and all our fear instincts come forward of like, I'm going crazy, I've got to keep my form, turn on the lights, no more of this, because it's infinite in its supply, and it's infinitely powerful, and it has the power to move through us. We were never taught to trust our own self-regulating mechanism. Our own body will regulate the stream of love. So when there's a sudden rush of love, there can be almost a panic and then after a whiplash. Right? The blocks in our system can suddenly become quite strong. You can feel constricted in the throat, or wherever there's a contraction, it can become more almost physical in a way. And as Bart said yesterday, everything does move through the physical in the end. Also love. So the effects of love are felt in the physical body. We think that, for example, when we have a deep sense of lack, like something's missing, something's really missing inside, or a sense of a longing for something, we tend to think the longing began with the lack. Something's not there that we need, and so we start to long for it. We start this longing comes forward, but actually it began with the love, and longing is so close to love. It's another effect of love, but it's so close. This movement, because love is about reunion in a way. This movement from the inside out, this longing, is a movement of love when the mind gets out of the way. When the mind interferes with this longing, it will say, oh, it's not there for me, it's there for others. It will start to compare, it will start to compete, it will start to say, it's because I'm bad, it's because this, it's if only this. It will start to turn it into a poverty story, in a way, the longing. But when we really, really blend deeply, and then it's no longer even in the heart, it's more in the pelvic area. When you blend deeply with this sense of longing, it's very, very, very deep love moving through the system. Naturally, by itself, without anyone doing anything. So it's also very close to life. So all of these qualities of true nature, including love, they really arise spontaneously by themselves, regardless of what we're doing with our head. Regardless of who we think we are, or what's been said about us, or whether we're seen or unseen, or regardless of the state of our personality or our psyche or the things that we've been through, these qualities are constantly arising. Like it's like water from a well. It's an infinite well, constantly arising, and we have this kind of mechanisms to keep them under the appearance of being in control. All kinds of complexes to try and maintain a sense of things being fixed, stable. That means that we don't need to do anything to love in order to love. It's much more to not do anything, to not interfere with naturalness. But unfortunately, we are very, very, very coded into doing. And not just doing physically out here, doing things in here. Also, this workshop could turn into a doing workshop where we do a meditation and we do this and we do this. And so today is very much about learning, training a little bit the nerve system to relax into not doing, no effort. Because where there's no effort, there is the space possible, the opening becomes possible for things to arise by themselves, for love to move through us by itself. And I'm not saying my love, or your love, or individual love. Love, like water, as it flows through a channel, it will get a little bit the flavour of the channel that it flows through. And in this particular water from this spring will taste different from the water from the other spring. But water is water and love is love. It's not like it's our precious love. It's a flow in both directions at once, in a way, through a channel. So the less we interfere with that, with our mind, with our reflexes, the more easily it can flow. But it's not just that, it's also the less we interfere with our tendency to interfere. Now this is a little bit silly sounding.
Can you repeat it?
The less we interfere with our tendency to interfere. So, I'll explain. So, through all mystical traditions, the basic bottom line principle, the magic ingredient to all liberation, all inner growth, happiness, peace, fulfillment, everything is this simple ingredient of to not grasp at something, not to grasp, not to grab, to try and keep, to possess, and not to push anything away. Grasping and aversion. And the thing about love is that it's so yummy that it's very hard for us not to, even subconsciously, not to do something with it, to resist or to grasp. So we can stop maybe with our heads grasping and aversing, but our bodies will still be doing it. And our energy will still be doing it. Because we're coded, also energetically we're coded. So when I say not to resist the resistance, it is possible to be in an openness, in a spaciousness inside ourselves, and to feel our energy grasping or pushing away, and to let it happen. And then it's fine. You see the difference? And that's a magical moment when you can be aware of, like let's say there's a compulsive thought, there's something that always annoys you. Like you go into meditation and you remember your mother and what she said, and so the whole energy is kind of grasping towards that. Love comes forward, it's mother, it's ugh. So that's a grasping movement. So the psyche, the energy of the psyche is already going whoa. The attention is going like this towards mother. You can't stop it. So you can't stop it happening, but you can not get on the bus. So you can kind of fall back behind it and just let it happen. So that's not grasping the grasping, or not aversing the aversion. And when you don't get on the bus of the movement, it kind of loses its its power, its authority. So part of the power of grasping and aversion to screw over our experience of being alive is that we give it power, we give it authority. You know, resistance is a form of aversion in a way, to resist, but also grasping is a kind of resistance because it's all about keeping control. But we believe in the resistance. We think, we believe collectively that we have the power to resist universal love. It's totally loony, right? Or
Resistance is futile.
it's absolutely futile. We give it that authority though, and because we give it the authority, it's like, oh, there's resistance here, so nothing can happen. I can't experience being alive. And actually what resistance is, it's another set of experiences that can just happen, which we don't have to grasp or reverse them. It's a felt sense resistance. It's got a particular energy, like, you know, it's got a, that's all it is. It's not a king, it's not God. We make it into a God, the resistance. And for a little while, you know, collectively, all together, we can do something with resistance, but just for a little while, until a war breaks out or everything cracks open, and then the people who are more awake and more alive and more able to relax outside of conventional form will be the ones that serve everybody else. I don't want to get apocalyptic, but that is a thing. You see it in family structures as well. Those ones that are able, that are resilient in a crisis because they're totally at home in the brokenness of the personality, in things breaking down, in the shock. So, because we're in Glastonbury and there is this other factor of magic that happens, like we saw the orbs of Janetta with the tree. Did you see the photograph of the tree with the orbs? Just from this morning. So there is here, I don't know what the hell is going on in this area, but there is something going on wibbly wobbly with time and space, and a lot of coincidences and a lot of openings in a way to different dimensions of life. And that means there's also a lot of openings towards grace. So grace is amazing grace, yeah? Yeah. So grace is probably one way to describe grace is the experience of love coming from a formless space outside ourselves into us, the reception of the receiving of love. And so often when we talk about love, we talk about the active principle, like love moving through us towards others, which often feels a lot safer, because even though we can allow the love to flow through us, we can still control the filter a little bit. You know what I mean? We feel we've got a little bit of control when it's coming in this direction. Yeah, exactly. You can turn off the tap, you know, across the arms and the whole works. But in the reception of love, we tend to be much more wounded in receiving love. Partly because of this shock factor that we talked about. As children, we're often shocked in receiving love, and we're quite helpless at that as children. And love can be confused with many conditions in the way it's received, because our parents are also broken. So it can be confused with control, with violence, with hatred, which is hatred is a confusion of love. And that can make us want to keep control of love. And it can make it especially vulnerable when love is coming towards us. We all think we want to be loved, but when love is coming towards us, we tend to kind of steel ourselves. You know? Because firstly, we're helpless. Secondly, things can get triggered, or love awakens. So things can get touched on this side of our psyche, this side of our wall, which we even forgot that we forgot. But we know they're still there, and we don't want it to be touched, because we know if love touches this place, it's going to hurt like hell, and we just don't want it to exist at all. So there is a lot of vulnerability in receiving love, for all of those reasons. Fearing dependency, fearing being controlled, fearing violation. So this grace movement, well, one of the graceful things about grace is that it's not from another person. It's like from the wind almost. It's from the mystery. And again, in order to be open to receiving this kind of formless love from the outside in, it's necessary to make no effort, to call off the search in a way. We need to be open. So the searching movement is like, where is it, where is it, where is it, where is it, hunting. It reminds me of in the Gulf War, we were going from one place to another as if we moved very, very fast, the missiles wouldn't hit us. Then we realised at a certain stage that if the missile's going to hit you, it doesn't matter if you're moving or not. It's not like... So there is this need to be able to just be still in a way and open. And to move into the possibility of openness and receptivity towards whatever is coming through us as experience from the outside in. Now, partly this works very well when part of where we make effort is when we start to make conclusions. We start to sum it all up. It's like something comes towards us and then we say, okay, we make a conclusion about it, we make a story, the invitation is to stretch a little bit more the time before the conclusion, to stay a little bit longer in the receptivity of an experience without closing the file on it, to keep the jury out and the judge. The mind loves to interpret and to interpret and to make sense and to make sense and to make sense, and it will do that anyway, but it's a little bit like what Monique was saying in the castle, it's this and thing, like, don't give the mind, let the mind do its thing, but try and add to it the deeper layer of experience. Don't let it cancel out the experience. Don't give it the authority over the experience. Give the experience the first authority, in a way. So, invisible and mysterious as it is, partly because it's the same as what we are. Love is a quality which is so close to who we are that often we can't see it. We see only its effects and its complications. It's sweetheart.
So you're saying that we can't really feel love, we feel its effects, but then isn't it the same with the other stuff, like silence, stillness? Everything we feel the effects in our body, right, with our senses.
Yeah. It's the same with absolutely everything. But love, the effects of love have a different flavour to the effects of peace. Or the effects of freedom. Or maybe the qualities are just the effects. Like what comes first, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, everything that we are is an effect. Everything that you could conceive of yourself as being, or perceive of yourself, or think that you are, it's not only an effect, it's an after effect of who you are. It's a reflection.
Okay, but you went too high, so I want to focus a little bit. So even our emotions, everything that we, like a bag, it's like a bag of sensations that we say they are jealousy, and there is a bag of sensations that we are saying that they are anger.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So we don't really, so we just labeled these.
Yeah. So we're trained to not take emotions seriously at all. We're conditioned to deny them completely, which means that they are those things of no name. In many families, there's no emotional space whatsoever. They're not even named. So part of the evolution and the training in spiritual psychology is in the first instance to take emotional responsibility and to name them. To say, I can feel jealousy here, I can feel hatred, and to begin to name them. But that's only the first stage. So having named it, we've given it the right to exist. And then we let go of the name and begin to taste it, to feel it, to smell it, to sample it. Because there is no one moment of anger which is the same as another moment of anger. So anger is a huge label. It's like universe. It's a huge label. And the particular flavour of anger and the ingredients of anger is, by the time when you begin to dive into it, it no longer feels like anger anymore. It feels like longing, like care, like grief. There's so much more going on there. When we agree to experience it, like passion, like truth. There's so much in it. So the labelling is a necessary stage to bring the mind, the thinking, into alignment with the feeling. But once that bridge is built, we leave the bridge behind and we're in the feeling. And then at a certain stage we can go back again and build maybe a more refined bridge.
Interesting.
So the mind is reporting on the experience, not the other way around. Experience is primary. Consciousness is first, experience is primary, and after that the mind follows. Always late. Always late. You have an experience in meditation, it already happened. By the time the mind says, oh, I had an experience, it's like, whoa, you know. It's that's why they call it experience. Yeah. Yeah. So you can get a sense of the slowdown that happens when the mind begins to interfere on top of the experience. How we slow down, we get kind of slowed from the direct liveliness of what's happening. So in terms of the direct experience of love, it kind of feels like you have a sense of love, yeah, like say the heart opening or the sense of yearning or the warmth or just the yumminess of appreciation. And then in recognizing that this is an effect, you let go of it. You don't grasp at the effect, at the feeling. Oh, I want the loving feeling, because that's now seen as being an effect. And so rather than grasping at the feeling and trying to get that feeling back again, now we're kind of letting the feeling go, which creates an expansion and diving into the unknown, into the source of the feeling. And it's a bit like diving into the black, the place where the love came from to cause all of these effects. It's a letting go movement.
Okay.
So where you've got a sense of love in the heart, for example, you can almost feel its perimeters. You can feel where it's bubbling from. And you dive into the darkness beneath it. You let go of the effects. That's one layer of not grasping in it. When you do that with an emotion, like hatred, yeah? So you got a sense of hatred, and you say, okay, I let go of the hatred and I dive into into the unknown around it. Often we will meet something like love. You know, why do you hate someone so much? Because the love is so frustrated in that moment. And then you let go of the love, and then you're going into a deeper, you're coming home inside yourself in a way, but home in an unknown way. And unknown means outside of the limitation of mind. And then meditation becomes a kind of process of knowing, a different kind of knowing, where the unknown is meeting the consciousness. It becomes an active living thing.
So the whole meditation becomes a question mark.
It becomes a whole journey. It's like it becomes an adventure. There's so much to explore then.
That kind of, when you talk about the reflection of love, it comes very, very clear when you realize that we need an object or a subject to love. There's always an object or a subject. So it is reflected, we have somebody we're in love with or we love, say Georgi. Georgi is one of the objects of my love. Subject of my love.
Object. He's the subject.
I'm the subject. I'm the victim here. Object, subject of my love. Whatever. Both. But then, so what we do is to get this wonderful feeling of love, we take the person, we need the person, we take the person in our thoughts. Or you have a kid, the moment you think about your kid, your heart opens up. Or when you think about your mother, maybe your heart will close or open up or whatever. We have this object, subjects we use to feel love. It's a reflection. So part of the difficulty at a certain moment is to let go of these objects, these subjects, and to hold on to this. To trust that love will be there whenever it's needed. But that feels like a loss. Because in that moment we don't control our love anymore. But what is important to understand is if we take a subject or for our love, there are always conditions around the love. It goes with conditions. The subject has to behave in a certain way, it has to be available, it has to be sweet. When the subject is telling you that you're a total jerk, you can fuck off. It is difficult.
Then love hurts.
Then love hurts. You see that it's a reflection, that there is a dependency there in which we kind of play with the reflection. So to totally kind of move into the unconditional aspect of a non-dual quality, love is a non-dual quality, what is important is to kind of totally trust that it will be there when it's needed, not to interfere with it. And that's the same what Georgi is saying. Basically that the mind is not creating and looking for grasping of aversing, because aversing is, oh, you still love me, don't you? I'm not a jerk, am I? So that's kind of, the game we're playing with each other. But it's a reflection. So to really trust that love will come forward when it's needed. And to follow with the mind the experience. And this is difficult, especially in these areas, where we are the most sticky. To really sacrifice any control over your heart, as to really sacrifice any control over your head. It's giving all your candies away. Because they're like candies, they're little candies. The love for your children, and kind of, go back to that, because that gives you hope, that makes life beautiful. And again, there is a condition there. Also on life. So that's a little bit what I wanted to add in between.
May I ask a question? I can also say at the end. That's what you prefer.
I think we're kind of good.
Okay, great. I was just, you call it reflection? Is that the same as projection, in a way?
No.
Okay, because I was just wondering, is like you said, the wound we have really hard to receive love, is that why we need another person? Like if we could receive love fully, that the love that is available around us could fulfill us. I'm starting talking Swedish, doesn't happen. I want to speak Swedish now. Do you get my question? No.
Yes.
Do you have an answer?
There is a phase in opening up the heart and kind of not really controlling the heart, that you become more aware of the reflections of love. And that love is reflected by everything around you, towards you. You're loved by the universe. It's the experience of being loved by the universe. And still the artist is not holding on to that either. Because it's you who are loved by the universe. I know it sounds, it is like a higher mathematics.
Yeah, but I at least I get a taste of what you're saying.
So, you know, pure love, the essence of love, is so close to us, is so natural that you don't feel it. You understand? You don't.
Just is.
It is. It is difficult to we see the effects of it. This is the loving touch. But if you really track back, where is the loving touch coming from? You know, I can feel the effect of the loving touch, not only because I touch her with care and with love, but her whole system is reacting to it. Yeah. So there is now this atmosphere of love here, which is very, very pleasant. She cannot help herself.
It's hard to receive.
You know, it's there, and that's what we really enjoy. You understand? But these are all effects. Where it came from, the initiation of it goes deeper. That is the unknowable, unperceivable in a way. It is
and the impersonal.
The impersonal. Yeah. It's something, you know, universal, which is expressing itself through us, and the effects are totally unique. Because if I would kind of, you know, if I touch in the same by my own body, I feel a reaction and effect as well. It's not as strong because she's very reactive to my touch, but still my loving touch. But still, you know, there is an effect. There's an effect from my own physical as well, you can sense. But it's different. It's unique. So the reflections are unique. It's a little bit what we talked about last night as well. You know, we are all unique, but partly what is unique in us is, you know, how we perceive, how we express. But these are the effects of something which is behind it, which is universal. It's the same in all of us. So I'm always kind of, you know, a little bit hesitant when people are coming to me and they say, okay, you know, I think I met my twin soul. And so that's somebody you feel very close to. But how I perceive it, how I feel it, is that we are all twin souls. We don't even have really an individual soul. It's an opening to a collective soul, which is there. A little piece of light of the universe, but this piece of light of the universe is part of the whole ocean of light of the universe. It's inseparable. So we're all twin souls in a way. We're all kind of much more one as we think we are, which is very beautiful. You know, one of the most simple experiences I had, you know, this is not something you feel all the time, but sometimes you can really kind of are blessed by having the opportunity to experience the truth in what I'm saying. It's based on my experiences. Is that I was standing outside in nature and there was this leaf on the tree, just a simple little leaf in clear green color, and I could feel that this leaf was exactly expressed by the same as I'm an expression of. The unity. This is where unity is coming forward. The experience of unity. That there is no difference. It's nor I nor.
Yeah, just thinking of Russell.
Yeah.
He describes in his book.
The I is not there anymore. And that are really deep and beautiful experiences. And also reflections, because every experience is a reflection again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You said about conditions on life at the end.
Yeah.
Can you say something else about that? How it becomes a condition on life?
So often when we have children, and we really care and love about our children, and the joy which is there, when this young life is becoming part of your life, to say it like this, and the depth we are touched can be touched by children. What we often do in our mind is, when we don't feel so good, or we feel a little bit down, or we feel insecure, or we feel a little bit awkward, we hold on to the love we feel. It's like, we enter a pub, and then, although our children are waiting in the car, we take the love of our children to manifest ourselves in a more relaxed way. You recognize what I'm talking of? So we it's like we were grasping something, like in our mind we grasp a certain thought. So to move through more difficult confrontations in life. That's one thing of it. And the other thing is, it makes us feel good. So if we don't feel so good, often what we do is we bring our thoughts to things which are making us feel better. If we feel alone, we think about, somebody we care about, we love, because it makes us feel less lonely. You understand? So we grasp the effects. It's the effect, and we hold on to it. And then it's, something which has been in the past. We hold on, and then we are disappointed in the future. Because when I touch Georgi now with the same love, it's not the same reflection. It's different again. You understand? It's changing all the time. And that makes us insecure. Because we identify with the effect. I touch her, there is an effect. She loves me, everything is okay. So I touch her, there is less effect. So maybe she doesn't love me anymore. You understand? We identify with the effect as if the effect is defining us. And this is where we get lost and get dependent.
Then it is better to let the form go.
Then it's much more easy to let the form go, and because it's every time different, and that is also very, very, very yummy. It's also very, yeah, it's interesting, but you can get in trouble.
Yeah.
Also, but trouble is part of life, maybe.
But Bart, is it then so that the form is mostly a choice every time over and over again?
No, we are not in control of the form. This is the horrible thing. I can make the form a choice by saying every time when I touch Georgi, it will be, oh, this is very responsive.
Stick your object.
There is this kind of,
Something is coming.
changes all the time.
Finally, some passion.
I meant not.
No, but I try to, I'm playing a little bit. I understand your question.
You meet someone at a certain way and you decide together to live in a form. But of course, love will not be, and sometimes it can be rocky, but you choose, make a conscious choice to live in that form and see how it grows. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Instead of hopping from everyone you've experienced love with.
Yeah, this is more about relating the question.
Okay.
Yeah, this is.
And what we're trying to do today is to liberate love from the people thing a little bit, because we are most injured in the interpersonal, between people, social area of love. It's where it gets most conditioned and most controlled and most complicated.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the last point, if we got a little bit more patience, of the morning talk, which is to emphasize that love is a quality. It's just a quality. It's a series of effects. It's not absolute, which means that in the process of liberation from conditions, from conditioning, we can experience the total absence of love as well. It means that these love junkies, they're not honest. It is possible to experience a sense of pure absence, no love. And that's often a sign that a deep purification process is happening, where a lot of the conditions are being burned down. And it sounds destructive, and it is destructive. In many ways, as Adyashanti says, enlightenment is a destructive process. Awakening is often a destructive process because we're breaking down illusions, limitations, castles, walls, prisons. You don't break the prison, you don't get out. So the absence of love, the experience of the absence of love can be deeply, deeply, deeply shocking. This sense of absence, but again, it's another effect. Absence, it's a strange thing, but the sense of pure absence is also an experience. It's not absent at all. It's something we are able to experience. And in that purification, then when we surrender into that, and it's not the only way things need to go, but sometimes it's like this, and often it's like this in Glastonbury, that things break down. But in being in that absence and not being alone, realizing that we're not alone and being able to expand awareness anyway, no longer searching for that love, but just being what or who we are as awareness, there is a possibility of a much more unconditional love arising. Or another kind of sense of direction or quality, because love is close to direction and close to all the other qualities. If love has begun to hold us hostage, we will need to experience the absence of love to liberate love. Meaning, if love became a complex of something that we have to do, we have to feel, we can't let go of, we have to keep it grasped close, then we will need to experience the loss of it in order to trust that mysterious unknown source again. Otherwise it becomes more and more faker, and then it breaks anyway. It's the nature of the beast, in a way.
And we place ourselves so often in a situation where we have to love our partners. And we have to kind of feel the love of our partners, otherwise the relationship is not good. But in a way that's holding on to effects, and it's killing at a certain moment the source. Because the most beautiful moments are the moments which are spontaneous, when it's alive, when it's real.
And so this is why the theme of the day is also about grasping and aversion, because for example, just take this one example, in that moment of total infinite absence or desolation, the subtle grasping is saying, this is forever, this is the truth. This is the absolute bottom line. Ground zero. Now it's real. That's grasping. Rather than, if you don't grasp, it begins to come to life in the field of experience. It's another experience which is passing like every sodding thing else. It's just an experience which is impermanent and passing. When we grasp it, we fixate it. We make a conclusion.